What's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I want to talk for a little bit about the NBA as a whole. Up until this point, it's been nothing short of a phenomenal NBA season. We've got two of the deepest conferences I feel like we've ever seen, with over in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics kind of dominating for the one seed, making a case as one of the best regular season teams of all time. And all up and down the standings the rest of the way, there's all these great storylines, with the Bucks, Damian Lillard coming into the fold, firing their head coach, hiring Doc Rivers, all these teams trying to fight for the standings that shift every single day. Similar case over in the Western Conference, where if you lose a game, you could drop like 4 spots any given night. And then at the top, you've got this great battle for the one seed between the Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Thunder, and the Nuggets, a 4-team combo that I don't think anybody would have predicted, fighting for the one seed this late into the season coming into the year. So it's been a great year all around, and it feels like it's building up towards what could be one of the best playoffs of all time. There's just so much talent up and down the NBA, and it feels like there are so many potential upsets, and this also includes the play-in tournament as well. As someone who watches way more basketball than probably any one person should, and especially as a Thunder fan, watching what they've done so far this season as the breakout team in the NBA this year, it's been a lot of fun. I can't remember a lot of seasons that I've enjoyed as much as this one so far. However, over the last few weeks in particular, I guess I could even say like the last month or so, the NBA has been really falling apart due to injuries. There have been an absurd number of moments where a star player or a key cog to a playoff team is announced that they're going to be out for a few weeks, that they're going to have an indefinite timetable, that they're out for the season, even having season-ending surgery. It's getting absurd. It's affecting all-star level guys. It's affecting a bunch of role players, young players who feel like they could break out in the second half of the season. It's just been really unfortunate, and I don't think a lot of people realize just how many injuries there are at the moment. Some examples of some big ones recently include Benedict Mathurin, who the other day underwent season-ending labrum surgery, which sucks because the Pacers were in line for this great playoff push. They're in the battle for potentially home court advantage in the Eastern Conference if they can get guys healthy and stay afloat in the standings. And now they lose one of their best and brightest young players for the rest of the season, won't even be back for a potential playoff run. Trae Young is out for a while with a finger surgery that could potentially sideline him for the rest of the season. And I know the Hawks weren't going to do anything too crazy, but Trae was still having a great year. It was also recently announced that Ben Simmons is going to miss the rest of the year with a nerve impingement in his back. He just can't seemingly catch a break. I might make a full video on Ben Simmons coming up here soon because it really sucks how his career has gone ever since becoming an all-star, all-NBA, nearly DPOY level guy over there in Philadelphia. The Cavs continue to deal with a lot of injuries on the season recently, with Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell going down for a little bit. Steph Curry hurt his ankle a few days ago. It's not supposed to keep him out for too long, but it's just another example of a high-level player getting hurt. Russell Westbrook fractured his hand, and he's questionable to return for even the playoffs. We don't know when he's going to be back, and that's a big blow to the Clippers bench unit. LeBron James is dealing with an ankle injury that seems like it's bothering him. It's caused him to miss a couple of games here and there, and if that continues to be the case, the Lakers are in some trouble because they're in the midst of a really tough battle for that 9 and 10 spot over there in the Western Conference play-in. Tyler Hero is currently dealing with a foot injury. He continues to have bad injury luck, and Josh Richardson, who's kind of an important piece for that Heat team, just underwent season-ending surgery. You've got Chris Middleton, who's been out for a minute. Karl Anthony-Towns, one of the biggest announcements recently, he's out with a meniscus tear until possibly the playoffs. And even if he does come back for the playoffs, we don't know what he's going to look like. That's a major blow to a Timberwolves team that was having one of the best seasons they've ever had. Devin Booker recently hurt his ankle, so that's affecting the Suns as they keep dealing with injuries. You've got Scottie Barnes fracturing a finger. His season might be done, as well as Jakob Poeltl, who also tore a ligament in his pinky. So I don't know what's going on with the Raptors in terms of finger injuries. There's just so much going on. Not to mention that there are whole squads who have been pretty much decimated by injuries this entire season. The Sixers have been without Embiid for most of the year, who seemingly was going to go ahead and win MVP, was playing the best basketball of his career, and now they've been trying to stay afloat without him, and that's been made even more difficult by the fact that Maxey's missed a number of games recently, dealing with a concussion as of late. You've got Robert Covington, who's missed a lot of time. Oubre earlier on in the season had that car accident that kept him out for a while. D'Anthony Melton is hurt. They've rapidly been falling down the standings when, if Embiid was healthy, they'd probably be in the race for the 2 seed at the moment. The Knicks have been decimated in a similar way, where you've got a shoulder injury that's been keeping Julius Randle out for a while now. Mitchell Robinson has been out forever. OG Anunoby has a lingering elbow injury that he still hasn't recovered from. And Jalen Brunson also dealt with some injuries over this recent stretch that has caused them to go up and down the standings a little bit. Probably the team that was hit biggest by this injury bug this year is the Memphis Grizzlies. Their year was pretty much over before it even began. Steven Adams was announced to be out for the year on top of Brandon Clark still having to recover from his Achilles injury. You got John Morant back finally after the 25-game suspension. He looked great, and then he played like 3 games, and now he's out for the rest of the season. Desmond Bane has been out for a little bit, as well as Marcus Smart, and honestly, they should probably just go ahead and shut those 2 guys down for the rest of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them again, in addition to Jaren Jackson, who I don't know how many more games he's going to end up playing, because at this point, you should probably just go ahead and preserve your guys. Not to mention, pretty much every role player's been hurt for them at one point or another. You got like the Bulls, who lost Zach LaVine for the season back in February. Patrick Williams was lost recently. This could have been a time where he was putting together the best stretch of his career. Lonzo, of course, still has not come back. Like, there are just so many names. Other guys that come off the top of my head, like Tari Eason is out for the year for the Rockets. Robert Williams has been hurt pretty much the entire year for Portland. Gabe Vincent has missed pretty much the entire year for the Lakers, and the list just goes on and on and on. It feels like it's been an extremely injury-heavy season for the league, especially here at the end, with a lot of them starting to pile up, and it's taking away from this great finish to the season, and it's getting me a little bit worried about the playoffs. If everyone is healthy, like I said earlier, I think we're in for one of the best playoffs we've ever seen, but if there is a lot of injuries like we're seeing at the moment, some of these first-round series and maybe even second-round series are going to be pretty rough. Like, you think about the difference between the Sixers if they have Joel Embiid versus if they don't. If they do have him, they could potentially be in for a playoff upset if Embiid is playing at the level he was before injury, but if they don't have him, they're probably in to get swept. The Knicks, similar case, I could see them being an Eastern Conference Finals team if they get healthy, but if they're still dealing with all these injuries, they could put up a fight in the first round, but I don't know who they end up beating. You've got the Cavaliers with and without their guys who've been dealing with injuries all season. The Pacers, again, without Benedict Mathurin, could have made some more noise than they possibly can now. The Heat are going to need everyone healthy to make another deep run. The Wolves were fighting for the 1 seed, like I said earlier, having one of the best seasons in franchise history, but now they seem potentially poised for a fall down the standings without Karl Anthony-Towns, who's been huge for them all season. And when he comes back, if he doesn't look like the player he was before injury, it could take away from the Wolves potentially having deep playoff success for the first time in a long time, like it seemingly felt like they could do before this injury happened to pop up. There's also the Clippers, who have been actually avoiding the injury bug for once, but with the Russ injury, now you've got like Paul George dealing with an injury on and off. I'm starting to get a little bit worried about them. The Phoenix Suns have hardly been able to stay healthy with their big 3 all season, so we don't know what they're going to look like in the playoffs, and honestly, with their hard schedule ahead of them and the current state of the Western Conference standings, there's a chance they don't even make the playoffs because the play-in is so brutal, and they've got just this gauntlet ahead of them. This is also going to have an effect on award races, specifically with All-NBA teams. Now that there's the 65 games played limit to actually qualify to make an All-NBA team, there are a number of star players that we could see be automatically disqualified pretty soon here in this season. Examples include Tyrese Halliburton, who a lot of people would say, oh, he's a lock for All-NBA, but I think he can only miss 4 more games roughly to make the team, so that's concerning because he's had a lingering injury. You've got Devin Booker, who is absolutely, to me, a lock to make one of those teams, but he can only miss 3 more games, having maybe the best individual season of his entire career. Donovan Mitchell is probably more in conversation for All-NBA first team than he is for not making one, and he can only miss 1 more game to actually qualify to make one of these All-NBA teams, which to me would be a tragedy if he doesn't end up making it with what he's done for the Cavs all season and the way that he's propped them up in the face of a ton of injuries. This could also have contract implications for these guys amongst many others, and it sucks. I don't really like the 65 games played rule specifically for All-NBA. Like, if Donovan Mitchell ends up playing 60 or 63 games, I don't really care because I think he's been impactful enough to still be able to make one of these teams, but because he's not going to reach that limit, he's just going to be automatically disqualified, and I don't like that. At the very least, I think they should lower the limit to like 60 games, but even that to me feels unnecessary. If you played enough impactful minutes in the games that you were there, you should still be eligible, and a guy like Donovan Mitchell, I think, is going to be a great example of this if he doesn't end up making the cut. These injuries have also affected the MVP race because before he got hurt, Embiid was kind of the runaway favorite, and it felt like he was going to go back-to-back. He was averaging like 36 points per game, playing amazing defense, and now because he's not going to make an All-NBA team or win MVP because of the injuries, this great season may end up forgotten when in reality, it was one of the most dominant starts to a season that I've personally ever seen. So injuries are just affecting the NBA in so many ways this season, and it really does suck. I've been trying to think about why this could be happening. Some potential reasons include the NBA, fighting back against load management. Maybe if some guys were allowed to rest a bit more, they would be healthier. Although a lot of the guys that are injured aren't your typical load management guys, so I don't really know if that is the case. The 65 games played thing for awards, I do think came into play, like with Tyrese Halliburton coming back a little bit early from injury. I think that could have affected him. him before getting re-injured. You've got Joel Embiid, who I think rushed himself back a little bit because he didn't want to miss out on potential MVP hype, although this is also just partially speculation on my part. So I do think that's something that could factor into it a little bit, but it's obviously a lot bigger than that because a lot of guys that are hurt were guys that weren't even really in the race for these awards. Honestly, I think just injuries happen, and this is a season in particular where they're racking up more than ever. I mean, it's a really competitive NBA, so maybe there's just more strain on guys at the moment. I don't really know. I'm not a sports therapist or anything like that. I don't really know a lot about how that stuff works. I just know that as a basketball fan and someone who covers the sport, it's really upsetting. It's super disappointing. I hope a lot of these guys get healthy if their seasons aren't over. I hope we get a fully healthy NBA for the most part going into the playoffs because, again, I think we could be in for one of the best playoffs of all time. It's just a matter of who's actually going to be on the court. And already it's messed with a lot of the award races, a lot of the potential seedings that we could see. So hopefully injuries don't mess up a lot of the rest of the season. Let me know what you think about this whole thing. What do you think the reasoning is for it? And yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Injuries suck. That's pretty much all I got to say. Appreciate y'all watching. See y'all later. Real one, say it back.